Okay, welcome to another Big Mish movement workshop. I'm keeping it slightly shorter today, but to the point. We are discussing hip symmetry today. Some of this stuff I've gone over before, but the specific theme today is, or why do we want to do this? Why do we want to focus on hip symmetry or even be aware of it? Because this is a continual practice that we must keep up. Number one, there is no such thing as you'll just stretch it and it'll go away. I mean, maybe if we're having a healthy lifestyle, yeah, we might be able to keep some hip imbalance pain away just one time, but in general, this is something that you're going to have to upkeep and fight throughout life, especially as you get older, especially you get a little bit more inactive, a little bit more sitting, a little bit more stress. It's a continuum that must be kept up. So that's number one that you have to keep in mind. Number two is we will always be unbalanced. So learn to walk the tightrope. Very important concept. You will always be unbalanced. That's just a given way of the human body. Again, depending on your lifestyle, stresses, activities, rest, balance, all of that. Generally, people will struggle to find that balance. So it is our goal in general with movement, exercise, and your rest time that's not sleeping, to find this balance, to rebalance ourselves. We all need it, especially once we hit that past 30 years old and life just hits us to the ground. We all need a little bit more self-care of our bodies. So there will always be unbalance. So it's something that you got to learn to walk the tightrope, which means you're going to have to put one foot in front of the other, and you have to trust one leg just as well as the other. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just bringing it back to the very, very root and the inner depth of the problem of the hip, where the actual attaches to the bone. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Number three of why this is important is because stretching will not get you there. It just won't. It might help you at one time, but in general, you need to take your bones there. If you really want longevity, if you really want to tackle these problems and keep them away, if you really want to be like, yeah, I can feel one side of the body or one side of the hip just as well as the other, you have to take your bones there. Stretching will really actually fix the problem, even though we are just talking about tight muscles on one side. So here we are. We got 4 exercises that I'm going to show you to bring some hip symmetry back to the hips. You do not need to do all of them every day, but if you're having some hip imbalances, I would probably try to do all of them. Generally speaking though, you would want to do at least one all the time, and I am always doing at least one of these all the time, always checking in, always bringing some symmetry back to the hips. No matter what, we're always going to lose it, we're always going to be a little bit imbalanced. So what are you doing consciously to find that balance? So that's why we got these 4 exercises, and pick and choose which ones you like, or go through all of them. We're going to cover front, back of the hip, inner side, outer side of the hip, and then more deep front, back, side to side action. So that's what we have 4. More exterior, more internal. With that being said, let's get to it. Just re-angle some of the cameras. So for this first exercise, which is one I've done so many times before, I would prefer that you go to a wall for this. If you could go to a wall and have your feet flat, it would be much better. But I'm gonna, for the sake of this, just gonna do this right here up against my chair. I've done this before, so you've seen it. That's great. But if this is your first time seeing it, just understand this is such a great exercise. It's such a winner. We are doing this primarily to bring hamstring tension back. More often than not, we're overly dominant in tension in the quads, and we don't have enough tension in the back, and that's going to cause our pelvis to tilt forward, our anterior rotated tilt, pelvic tilt. So number one of fixing that front to back relationship is we want a little bit more hamstring activity. Now, hamstrings are a hard muscle to recruit. They're a hard muscle to tap into and engage. So that's why it's good to give us reminders of what hamstrings feel like. you won't necessarily feel them in a squat. You won't necessarily feel them in a lunge. So that's why it's good to just put your feet on a flat surface. I'm doing my chair, but I would prefer you do it on a wall. And we're going to be in this 90-90 position with squeezing something between your knees. So 90, see, you got 90 degrees of the thigh bone to the shin, okay? Why? Because when we push into the wall and peel our tailbone off the floor, we'll get some hamstring tension. Not a lot, just a little. That's just what we want, just a little bit, okay? And remember, so you're lifting just your tailbone off the floor. Number one, push into the floor. Number two, peel that tailbone off the floor. Great. From here, we're going to alternate taking one leg off at a time. I want you to breathe for a full inhale, exhale as you take a leg off. Just keep your fingers over the ribs so that we monitor good rib cage motion as we breathe. Here we go. Keeping your left on the wall. Let's extend our right. Go ahead and inhale. Exhale. Replace. Lift off. Go ahead and inhale. Exhale. Replace. And again, lift off. Inhale. Exhale. Replace. Notice I'm exhaling through the mouth. Good long exhales. That gives us some nice ab tension to help further recruit the proper positioning for our pelvis. Next one. Inhale. Exhale. Good. We'll go one more each side. Press it in. Replace. Inhale. Exhale. And last one. Inhale. Exhale. And replace. Good. So you don't really need to do too many reps of that. I just did 6, but maybe 10 total. Or you could maybe even just hold 2 feet there and just chill, just get some deep breathing going on. Even that is going to get your hamstrings working. And by squeezing something between the knees, we're already getting the inner thighs working. So great exercise to start off with because you're getting all these good, deep internal team players who've got powerful real estate attachment on your pelvis, hip, and already start pulling them into a more neutral position. So great starting point. Okay. So that's number one. Now we're gonna tune it up. Now we're gonna ramp it up, make it a little bit more intense. We're gonna do a side plank for this one, okay? Side plank, inner versus outer. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna be like this so that you can see, okay? First, let's focus on the inner thigh of the top leg, and then you're gonna focus on the outer thigh of the bottom leg, okay? So what we're gonna do is same thing, we're gonna hold, but this time we're gonna hold for 2 breaths, okay? Make sure you got 2 nice long breaths. Let me adjust this Instagram angle, nice. So make sure you got 2 breaths hold. We're gonna start with the top leg, pushing down into the ground. You're gonna lift your bottom knee up, extend your arm forward, go inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale, exhale. Now set this down on the ground, positioning your shin and knee on the floor. So your thigh is straight all the way through. Now we're gonna raise this knee up here. So reach again, inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale, exhale. Your hip should be working on that one. Repeat, top leg down, bottom knee up, reach forward, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Repeat one more time. Raise that knee, reach that arm, outer hip working. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Nice. So I just did 2 reps each there. You could probably do 2 minimum, but up to 4 reps to 5 reps back and forth. So maybe that's 10 total. You can shorten it to a 2 single breath hold, or a 2 breath hold, or even 3 breath hold. Alternatively, you can put that top leg on an object. So now you're elevated to give yourself more intensity of the inner thigh. Do what you can, This is supposed to be challenging so that you can work up to it, and it's always giving you something to actually work against through your warm-up. Warm-ups sometimes also have a little bit of a challenge to them, little bit, so that you're always pushing for something and pushing to be better at something. Okay. And by warm-ups, I'm also kind of including core. This is a core exercise, and core is somewhat of a integrated between warm-up and actual working out. So I'll decide real quick, just to show you, okay? Just to kind of keep it balanced even for me. So arm up, clamp that top leg down, right here. Arm forward, bring the knee up, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Clamp all this down, bring that knee up, reach the arm, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. One more time, place that foot down, bring that knee up, inner thigh working, inhale, exhale. One more time. Place that down. Just make sure you're nice and straight so you're extending your hip all the way through. Knee forward, inhale, exhale. One more. Good. Especially when you're on that bottom leg, make sure that you are extending the hip all the way forward. That you're making a straight line through. Very important for getting all of that glute nice and activated and helping bring that pelvis a little bit more straight and aligned. Okay, that's 2 done. We got 2 more to go. Slightly easier with a slightly harder one. Actually, but they're both a little bit tricky. This one. This is going to be a tough one, but I want you to modify and do what you can. Here is why. Ultimately, you are going to have to practice to be able to get your foot and leg rotated, get your leg rotated and your foot lift off the floor. Being in this position, okay, we're going to do 5-second increments, okay, of holding. First off, we're going to focus on 3 sets of 5 seconds of this leg, and then we're going to switch it to the other side, okay? And we're focusing on what you call this external rotation. So we're trying to lift this foot off the floor, squeezing from here. Now, I've practiced this a lot, so I can get a couple of inches. If you've never done this before, you're probably not going to be able to get much off the floor. But I want you to at least lift your foot. And if anything, you can push up into your hand, or if you need to, lift your leg up and just let go and try to hold it. But whatever you need to modify, but if you can just get a little bit off the ground, that's fine. You're not gonna get much. It's not gonna be much. So modify as needed, but I like to give myself sometimes a little something to push into, because that allows you to lift and squeeze a little bit more. To do this, first what I want you to do is take your hands away and worry about pushing this into the ground. We're pushing this into the ground for 5 seconds. That's already activating the glute. Good. Now, place that hand down. Place this hand here for support, or if you don't need to, put it on the floor. Okay? And now we're going to lift this foot for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now place it down, squeeze, hold for 5. You're actively pushing this down. 2, 1. Set your hands to the floor or give yourself that stimulus and push up, push up. 3, 2, 1. Notice I'm wiggling it around. That kind of helps further activate these muscles. Last cycle, push down. 5. Actively pushing down, try to keep your chest up. 1, put your hands down, give your hand the support for stimulus, and lift for 5. 2, 1, good, switch it. Pressing this actively down, try to keep your hands up, chest up, pressing it down for 3, 2, 1, hands down, one hand here for a little bit of a stimulus if you need to, or a lift, whatever you need, and lift that foot, go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Actively press the whole thing down, open up that chest, try to keep your palms open. Pressing this leg down for 2, 1, hands down, make that foot float and wiggle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last cycle, pressing down actively, keeping that chest up. We're doing that for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands down, or give yourself that stimulus if you need to. Make that foot float and wiggle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. Don't be discouraged if you can't lift the foot. Just take your time with it. It will come. Okay, we're gonna go now to internal rotation. So back to this first side. We're working the back leg now. So now we're gonna lift this foot off the floor, keeping this knee down. This one might be a little bit easier, but it's also a little bit easier to cheat. So we're gonna have 2 hands down this time. One right here, just right here, one in front, one in the behind. Sit that down. Give me some light. There you go. Okay, there you go. Right here. All right. Back leg will lift. Keep that chest up. All right. Number 1, we're gonna squeeze this leg down, activating the inner thigh before we then activate the outer thigh. That usually gives us a nice little complex back and forth pulling of joints to help realign things. So hands down, you don't need to move your hands really for this one. Push, oh actually no, excuse me, hands out to the side, excuse me, just squeezing down and go for 5, 4, 3, clamp it down, squeeze, 2 and 1. Both hands down, keep that chest up, make that back foot float and wiggle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Squeeze it down, hands out to the side. Try to keep your chest up. We're going for the 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands down, chest up, back foot, make it float and wiggle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands out, clamp down for 5 seconds. Keep your chest up, open up your arms. 2, 1, last one, hands down, make that back foot float and wiggle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good, very good. Again, don't get discouraged if you cannot lift it much. I'm barely getting a couple of inches. It is a practice. If you are cramping, that means that muscle is waking up. Don't overdo it. Just again, barely lift your foot. I'm only wiggling because it sometimes helps reactivate the muscle and kind of wake it up. For me, anyway, that helps me. If that's causing you to spasm or cramp, just barely lift your foot. In fact, don't even try to lift your foot. Try to just activate that muscle at the point where you're just before you're lifting your foot. We don't want to cramp. We don't want too much of that, any of that. Okay, and also if you tend to lean forward, you're gonna cheat. So that's why I try to keep everything up and just whatever you got, whatever you got. We're going to the other side. There you go. This one right here. Okay, clamp it down for 5. Hold your arms out. Keep your chest up. 3, 2, 1, hands down, pin that knee into the floor and lift and wiggle that foot, whatever you got, or don't lift it, just try to activate, keeping that chest up. 2, 1, clamp it all down for 5, hold it, keep your arms out. 3, 2, 1, keep your hands down, chest up, make that back foot float for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last cycle. Clamp it down to the ground for 5. Keep that chest up. Arms out, palms up. 3, 2, 1. Hands down. Chest up. Back foot. Make it float for 5, 4, 3, 2. Really pin that knee into the floor and rest. Nice, nice. Good stuff, good stuff. I got one last one for you. You're gonna be on your feet for this one, okay? And for this last one, let me explain, because we are now going to target some of the hip flexors. And just to clarify for you guys, so I know hip flexors is an area of much discomfort for many people. You often feel very tight. I also used to be in the mindset thinking that this is just tight and we just need to stretch, stretch, stretch. And I recently became much more aware of how hip flexors work, and I've seen how many people actually sometimes fail muscle activation hip flexor tests, depending on which hip flexor we break it down. The tightness we feel is often due to lack of movement, A, or B, sometimes it's neurological tightness trying to make up for lack of strength. And sometimes we actually have an actual tightness, but even then, very rarely is it lacking true strength at end range, which is basically all we could really ask for. We don't need high reps. We don't need to be able to lift load. If we could just have good strength throughout its range, so basically at its weakest point, be just strong, then our hip flexors are going to be in a good functional place. You can still stretch them. However, I found that the moment I started giving my hip flexors a little bit of love, per se, in this sort of functional way that I'm about to show you, I just felt way better. They felt less tighter. They felt way more stronger. They helped me with a lot of kicking movements, soccer ball kicks and whatnot. They've helped with my mobility. And I used to stretch all the time, and it was never really getting me anywhere. So, hip flexors, just be mindful that we don't always need to stretch them. There needs to be some sort of stretch movement, better is what I would say, some more dynamic movement. However, if you are gonna stretch or do whatever, I would still say give them a little bit of love too. A little bit of isometric hold love, like I said, the end range, which is what we're about to do. However, we're going to incorporate a little bit of single leg stance and a little bit of glute strength with this. Twitching will be hard to see. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Okay. You can hold on to something or whatever you need to. Just give yourself a little bit of balance. We're gonna start again with, there's gonna be a 5-second hold stretch to or press to a 5-second hold, holding your leg up. What I mean by that is holding on, grab your knee, we're gonna stretch for 5. But as we're doing this with this other leg, stance leg, I want you to push hard into the ground. So we're getting a good activation of the hip, okay? After the 5 seconds, we're gonna let go of the leg and keep the knee elevated for 5, activating the hip flexor. And then we'll repeat, go back into hold. Ready? So push hard. As soon as you start feeling weak here, push ever so hard into the floor. Remember, hip flexors need a little bit of love. All we're doing here is conditioning it in the end range so it can be just as powerful throughout its whole motion. Okay? Hold on to something. Ready? Grab and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Really push hard into the ground. Let go and exhale. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grab the knee, pull it in. We're stretching for 5. Making sure your knee of the standing leg is slightly bent, not all the way locked out. And let go of that knee. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grab the knee, pull it in. Stretching for 5. On this last one, make sure you push into the ground super hard. As hard as you're pulling your knee up, push into the ground. Ready? And push, pull for 5. Push, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh, so I'm actually feeling that more in my glute just because I'm driving into the ground so hard as I'm lifting that knee up forward. Super important, front and back, deep of the muscles of the hip. Pulling it up, but also pulling it down of the standing leg. So now you got nice balance functionally working back and forth. Let's go on the other side, okay? We're going on the other side, okay? Grab the knee, pull it in for 5, 3, 2, ready? Push into the floor hard and exhale, lift it up for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grab the knee, pull it in for 5, try to pull it a little bit higher, and don't let that knee drop this time. Ready? 2, 1, push into the floor hard, exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Grab it in, pull it in for 5, last cycle. 3, 2, really drive the standing leg into the floor now. Ready, and go. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great, and that is pretty much it. We've got 4 exercises. We've covered inner and outer thigh, front to back, inner and outer, deeper, front to back, deep. All your key players of your hip got some nice movement activation there, and also some single leg stance activity, which is even more important for bringing that hip into balance. Great stuff. Remember, you don't have to do all 4 exercises, just pick one, but at first just get accustomed to all 4, get used to it, and then just throw one in there every now and then in your warm up or whenever need be. Remember, it's a continuum. You always have to keep up with this. So I bring these exercises to you to help prepare you for movement. Movement that should be effortful, joyful, and focused. Because when you bring all those together, you get the most out of your movement, and you enjoy your body to the maximum. Because that's what we're meant to do, is enjoy it and use it and be pain-free. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. It's a little bit shorter. I don't think I got any questions or Instagram or anything to answer today. Good. So that's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave me any comments, questions that you might have, or if you want me to cover a topic, just shoot me a message and I'll gladly cover that topic for you next time. Bye for now. Take care of your bodies. See you later.